Hello and welcome to episode 1 of Inside the Birdhouse from Bluebird Branding, the series where we spark conversations with our team to give you bite-sized insights into the world of branding. Join us as we take you behind the scenes and give you a fresh perspective on what makes brands truly fly. Today I'm speaking with Chief Strategy Officer Jim Miller. Welcome to the conversation. Hi Jim.
Hey, how's it going, Elle?
Oh, very well, thank you. And you?
Doing just fine, thanks.
Excellent. Do you mind sharing with our lovely audience who you are?
Sure. My name is Jim Miller. I've been at Bluebird almost from the very beginning. Chief Strategy Officer. I work more on the strategy side, operational side of the company, client communication side. Really, I'm here to help support clients work with us smoothly so they can grow, so we can help establish and build brands for them that are going to make them successful in the years to come.
True jack of all trades, Jim. I'm Elle Rushby and I am the marketing specialist and brand manager at Bluebird Branding. First of all, what do you think makes a successful strategy in terms of brand?
Well, I think for a business or an organization or a company that's out there that's really trying to separate itself or grow its overall brand, they've got to be able to tell their story in a compelling way. I think there's many successful businesses or maybe businesses that aren't as successful that have never really thought about it, have never really found a good way to tell their story. One of the things that we try to do, or me in particular, is to immerse myself as much as I can into their business, understand who they are, what they're all about. And a big part of that is trying to determine what sets them apart, right? What makes them unique, what makes them successful to this point, what makes them different from their competitors. A lot of what that involves from my end is talking individually, one-on-one interviews with some of their key leadership folks, spend time with them one-on-one so I can extract all the information out of their minds on what makes them different and unique. And so when I hear this perspective, we start to aggregate that information, see if we can find a common theme, and really then try to boil this down into a compelling story. And I think in many cases, when we present that back, it's a wake-up moment or an aha moment for them that they've each kind of told the story in a little bit of their own way, but let's see if we can consolidate it into a consistent way that not only is important for the executive leadership, but something that they can now pass on to the other folks on their team. So everybody, as we always say, is singing from the same sheet of music when it comes to telling their story and who they are and what they're all about.
I think based on what you're saying, brand strategy for a business who's a startup or they're trying to scale up and they're starting to really look at how they can grow and partake in that growth journey alongside perhaps their competitors. Developing a cohesive brand strategy feels a little bit like a pain point based on what you're saying. It's not something that they perhaps laid as a foundation in their business. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think it goes back to something I said a minute ago, where they've never really thought about telling their story in a consistent way. I mean, you've got folks coming together to create and start a business. They're successful enough to get past that initial grind where the business starts to take off and they're growing. But now it's time to step back and let's really try to cohesively talk about who we are and do it consistently. Like I said earlier, it's a little bit of an eye-opening moment for them. Our work and our role in helping them create this strategy and this story about what makes them unique is trying to blend these thoughts and creating something that's consistent, that makes sense, not just for the 3 or 4 leadership folks in the room, but creating some sort of a messaging document or story document that they can circulate and pass around to their team. And I think one thing about that we always say that's important is, it's not a matter of helping a company craft its story and handing this out to its employee set and saying, okay, guys, everybody needs to memorize this story. And when anybody ever asks about who we are or what we're about, you need to communicate this story verbatim. It's not that at all. We all want to understand the story, and we want you to take the story in, understand it, but communicate it in your own way. And if we all do that consistently, or if everybody within the company can do that consistently, the brand starts to build on the core pillars of the brand that really set it apart.
Makes sense. I mean, brand consistency is crucial to sustaining brand strategy, isn't it? Well, it is in essence brand strategy.
Right. And I think a lot of it is being able to articulate their story in a way that's authentic, meaningful, repeatable. Back in my PR days, we always talked about if you have a bad product, good PR is going to kill that quicker than anything, right? If you're starting to tell a story about something and it's not genuine, it's not authentic, it's just a facade, it's not going to stick, right? So at the end of the day, we got to figure out from this company what's authentic, what's meaningful, put that together in a way that everybody can embrace and communicate it in their own way.
I think you touching on your PR background there, especially linking it to brand authenticity, which is such a buzzword in our industry, I feel like. And I kind of hate the word buzzword, but it's true. It really is. It's something that is really topical. Can you tell me a little bit more about what it means to be authentic as a brand?
I think what I would say is at the end of the day, a company may come up with all these things that they want to say about themselves, but for that story to resonate and for it to truly be meaningful, it has to be accurate, right? If a company comes in and, I'm just making up some example, they do sloppy work, they're careless, they don't, tie up the loose ends on whatever it is that they're doing. If they come in and they try to tell the story, the brand story about how buttoned up they are, about how they never make mistakes, they always do the right thing and that sort of thing, well, they can tell that story, but if they can't back it up in what they deliver, their target audience or their consumers or their customers are going to see through that right away and it's going to die. So the idea of going through our process to create brand strategy is spend one-on-one time with key folks within the organization. And in some case, we're spending time with maybe some of their customers to get the perspective of their customer. And by doing so, we can see what the commonalities are across all the people that we talk to and interview and put this story together in a way that now they can communicate it. They can certainly back up what it is that they say about their company and they can deliver on those promises. We talk about creating brand promises and they've got to be able to deliver, because if they can't deliver, then they're not authentic and the message they're trying to communicate is not going to come through. And like I said, customers and clients pick up on that right away and lose interest and lose faith and move on.
100%. And I think what's important to connect, it's kind of like connecting the dots here based on everything you're saying about brand strategy and particularly our process when it comes to approaching building a brand strategy for our partners. It all interconnects authenticity, brand consistency, ultimately leading to brand trust. Those are the next layers, aren't they? Building on top of a brand strategy. It's the hallmark of success for a business. Why brand strategy is so important. It's not just about fixing colors or just about fixing a website. It's so important in our industry to answer the question of why.
Yeah, and I think another big piece of it is differentiation. Every company's out there trying to say that they're different, we're better, choose us, but they've got to have a reason and they've got to have a good story to tell on why that is. So, another part of the process that we go through when we're interviewing these folks one-on-one is what sets you apart. I'm going to ask that question to every single leader within their organization. Some folks I don't think have thought about it. Other leaders may say maybe it's a technology or an innovation or whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, we go through this process. We hear from a variety of people on really what makes them different, what sets them apart. And those are words that I keep saying over and over because it's truly important. But through this process, we can help create a story, a strategy that helps define a distinct position. So you're not just competing with others out there on price or features and benefits, but there's something truly unique that, resonates with your target audience, with your customers, so they continue to come back over and over and over.
That's what sets Bluebird apart. I really have recognized that one of our USPs is the ability to be collaborative with every single one of our partners from the foundations up. You don't build a house just through drywall. I was going to say plaster then, but that's pretty sure that's a UK term. But you don't build a house with just drywall, nails and some paint. It's really all about those foundations. I'm really interested in understanding a little bit more about whether there's a difference between working with a larger company with multiple leaders who have come to us and asked for a partnership to work on their branding and particularly their brand strategy versus a smaller, perhaps a legacy owned business.
Good question. I think there definitely is a difference. When you work with with for example, a smaller family-owned generational company, maybe a company that the grandfather started 100 years ago, and he's worked and built this company and passed it down to his son, who's grown the company even further, brought in more technology, innovation, expanded the company. He's eventually passed it down to his children or his family, and let's say today, in this case, this is who our client is, right? Working with a client like that has a long history, it's family owned, there's a ton of legacy. So when we help create that story, a big part of what we're doing is not only trying to position this company for the future, a new look and feel, something more modern. That's important, but at the same time, in this case, we don't want to lose the history and the legacy, right? We often joke about somebody will come in and they'll have a logo that was designed on the back of a sheet of paper by somebody's grandfather's cousin, that sort of thing. Folks within this company have a strong association to that, and they're fearful of a company like us coming in and changing this logo, changing this brand. We understand that. And so what our challenge is to take this piece of art that was created decades ago, modernize it to some degree that's effective to show that it is modern and forward thinking, yet at the same time, let's not separate our past, right? Let's not break ties from our past. And we're very good at that in being able to creating a new modern logo, but you can look at it and still see ties to the past. So that's one example for working with maybe a family-owned company. Now, if you're working with a mid-size, let's say construction company, say there's 100 people, when you talk to the leadership team within that organization, in some cases, sure, there's history, but as new leaders have come on board, in many cases, they're more focused only on the future and not so much on the past. Right. And so it's a different situation. Maybe something's happened to the company where their brand reputation has been dinged for some reason. And now they need to separate themselves a little bit from the past. And it's time to refresh, freshen up the story, freshen up the look and the feel. Again, not to say that a smaller family-owned company isn't forward thinking, they're only looking back. Certainly they are. But they pay a lot of respect, and they want to certainly communicate that legacy to the history and the family and the formation versus potentially a company that's got a CEO and 16 senior VPs and heads of other departments. They've all come from different companies over the course of their career. And so working with an organization like that can certainly be different because they're going to see it as a different approach and really focus on the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you answered that perfectly. And also what I took from that was brand strategy as a whole is not cookie cutter for each business. That might sound super obvious, but as you said earlier on in the video, it's not wholeheartedly obvious to a small business owner or a multinational company. It varies along the verticals and along the company size as well. So I think that's important to note. It's not a one size fits all approach to brand strategy.
What you say is correct, and a good example of that in the fact that it's not one size fits all. It's not just like, hey, I've got a list of 10 questions as I go into one-on-one interviews. I mean, sure, I've got a set of 5 or 6 ideas I want to try to extract from them, but it's not like, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Client, here's a list of the 10 questions I'm going to ask you. And I just go, okay, question number 1. It's very free flowing. It's very conversational. It's picking their brains. It's trying to extract some ideas that maybe they haven't communicated much in the past. And it's a way to really try to pull that out. We want to try to find out what's behind this company. What are they all about? What is it that they do, and say it in a way that's certainly going to resonate. We want to help establish a set of core values. We want to help establish a set of key attributes. We want to help create some message points around some of the key differentiating things, things that are really going to be true and really resonate, and things that the company can use, whether they're putting a proposal together, whether they're sending an email, whether they're speaking at some event, that they can effectively and concisely communicate what makes them different, better, and unique.